Hello everyone, welcome to this video on iOS XR model-driven telemetry configuration guide. So let's quickly dive right in. We'll see how we can configure it on a device. So let me clear the screen a bit. Okay, now this is a brand new iOS XR device. So let's start by looking into the parts that will make up the configuration required for starting out on iOS XR's model driven telemetry configuration. So we are going to use CLI this time, but in later videos we'll also dive into the other methods by which we can configure the model driven telemetry. So telemetry model driven is the command that we'll give, and inside this we have three sections that we need to deal with. The first one is the destination group. So here we need to configure the destination group, which will tell the device how and where we need to send it. More specifically, um, you know, the destination IP address and also the encoding that we should use. So in this example, I'm configuring the destination group telegraph, and I need to instantiate an address family IPv4, and I'm going to specify my destination where my telegraph instance is running. So in this example, we are using the tick stack. So the server is listening on port 57500. So we should also specify the encoding that we're going to use. And the encoding that we're going to use is self-describing GPB, also called as KVGPB in this case. This is one method by which we can encode the data that we're going to send this. We're going to see the other options later in further videos. So the protocol that we are going to use in this video is TCP, because that's how we have configured the telegraph server, right? And for secure options, we might want to look into protocols that support encryption, which we'll be taking a look later. So now that we have configured the destination group, so the next thing that we should be interested in is to configure the sensor group. Now, sensor group is something that specifies which data that we need to ship from this particular XR device all the way to the telegraph server. So in this example, we are going to send the interface statistics. So I'm going to copy the sensor path, for want of time. So let me copy this. So this is the sensor path that we are going to export from this particular device. So from a sensor group perspective, this is the only thing that we are interested in right now. So the next element that we are going to do is the subscription, and subscription is what ties both the elements together. So I'm going to give it a name called interface stats, and the first thing that goes into this is sensor group ID. So we've already created a sensor group called interface, and sample interval is something that tells this device how often we need to send this data. So this is going to be specified in millisecond. So I'm going to give 3000 milliseconds, and the destination. So once we select the sensor group, the next thing that we need to select is where do you want to send this. So that is going to be telegraph in our case, and the source interface is something that tells the device which particular interface it should use to send data towards the telegraph server. So we are going to use the management interface, which is what has the reachability to the destination, right? So that's pretty much it with respect to the configuration. Now before we go and see the data, we need to verify the running configuration. So I'll just, so we have configured a destination group called telegraph with address family, which is sending the data to port 57500. We are going to use encoding self-describing JPB, and the protocol that we're going to use is TCP. And we are going to have a sensor group called interface, which is basically specifying the sensor path, and the subscription called interface starts. And we are going to tie down both the sensor group ID and the destination ID in this particular configuration. So since we have committed this, everything looks good. So let's type in a few verification commands. So show telemetry model driven, and then we have a couple of options around here. So the first thing that we're going to check is whether the sensor group that we have given, is it correct or not. So sensor group and then followed by interface. So now this is going to tell us whether the sensor path state is resolved or not. So that is something that we need to verify. And the next thing that we're going to verify is going to be the destination. So destination and followed by the word telegraph. Now this is where we are going to see the state on whether we are sending data actively to this destination. So the the subscription that we are sending to this particular destination is something called interface starts, and the state is active, which is good. The encoding that we're using is self-describing GPB. The transport that we are employing here is TCP, right? So we are not utilizing any transport layer security, so we expect to see false here, and this is going to tell us the number of bytes sent to the receiver. So as long as this is incrementing, we are good, right? And there's also going to tell us the collection statistics here, which is basically telling us how often it is collecting this data from this device and then sending it out to the receiver. So the sensor path looks good, the number of collection looks good, and the sample interval also looks good. So now we can head to our Influx DB portal, where we can verify whether this data is received or not. So for that, let's go to the Influx DB portal. So here is my data explorer. So I'm sending all this data to a bucket called iOS XR. So this is the bucket that I'm sending the data to. So let's go to data explorer. So this is the path that I'm interested in, which is going to be the measurement. This is the sensor path. So I'm going to pick on a specific data called packets received. The host where I'm running Telegraph is called DevBox server. I'm interested in a specific interface called 0000. This is the path, right? And the host name of the XR device that we are interested in is XRD, right? And what is the subscription? Our subscription name is called interface starts. So let's click submit. So we should see the data here. Let's verify this data. So we are seeing that for the particular data that we've selected, which is packets received, the value that is being sent is somewhere around 1.157K, which is approximately equal to 1157. So let's go back to the device and see the interface utilization for 0000. So this is roughly where is the packet. So we have packets received, so it should be on the input. So 1162 is the present value. So let's go back. So what's the latest value that we're seeing? I think it's approximately equal. So that's our first video on how we can send the data. So let's also select this as last. So I think that should be good. Yeah, I think now the value is 1.164, which is exactly what we saw. So this data is being shipped every 3 seconds. In further videos, we'll also see how we can explore the same data on a Grafana visualization server, and also see other options of sending the data from the XR device, um, maybe other means of telemetry, other configuration. So this is the first video which will help you quickly to get going with respect to model driven telemetry. Thank you for your time.